afternoon, Facebook. It's Monday. That means it's time for Today in Media. Before we begin with our 5 most foolish takes, here's my co-host, Amber Athey. And obviously, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful time with your family. Unfortunately, the media continued to be out of control. So here is where we're going to start. We're going to start with MSNBC using Dan Rather as an expert on fake news.
President Trump taking a direct aim at American journalists this morning yet again. He tweeted this just moments ago, quote, "We should have a contest as to which of the networks plus CNN and not including Fox is the most dishonest, corrupt, and or distorted in its political coverage of your favorite president. Me. They are all bad. Winner to receive the fake news trophy." Wait. If the winner receives the fake news trophy, does that mean that the president is currently holding it? Joining me now is veteran American journalist and icon, president of News and Guts Media, Dan Rather.
Wow, Amber. All right, tell me exactly what's wrong with that.
All right, so Stephanie Ruhle starts out by criticizing President Trump for calling the media fake news, and her defense is to bring on Dan Rather, who is an actual purveyor of fake news.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people remember this, but Dan Rather was literally fired from his job for spreading fake news about George W. Bush and didn't vet some documents properly. So Dan, you might want to spare us your sanctimonious Facebook posts and your MSNBC appearances in the future, unless you want us to continue hammering for it. I think this is the second time that we featured Dan Rather on here for criticizing the president. But we'll move on. We'll talk about Andy Richter. He's a late-night comedy host, and he has a tweet that should be up in front of you right now. And it's Amber, sum it up for us. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, it's so absurd. He's basically implying that Nazis and conservatives are so close on the political spectrum that he literally can't tell them apart. So in order for him to tell apart Nazis and conservatives, he needs conservatives to say very loudly every time a Nazi comes up, by the way, this guy's not a conservative.
Yes, he needs anybody who's a conservative, who identifies as a conservative, to constantly disavow. And yet, we talk about this. Look, obviously Nazis, disgusting, despicable, anything that they do. Nobody wants absolutely anything to do with them in modern America. And then we'll bring up and we'll say, well, why don't you disavow, like major violent elements within your own organization? Not saying they're as bad as Nazis, but you have a violent contingent of people who want to literally overthrow the president, and they're saying, no, you have to understand where they're coming from.
And then you have him saying that it's not the job of writers or liberals to distinguish between conservatives and Nazis. That's the problem with journalism today. It literally is your job to make that distinction and make it clear that they are not at all related.
All right, so we're going to move on. CNN decided to pat itself on the back a little bit. We had a CNN host literally thanking its viewer. So what happened here? Did they thank their viewers for watching them? Or I mean, this all comes after the president basically attacked CNN and CNN International, saying that they don't present a good face of America towards the world.
Yeah, let's watch what happens.
CNN's response actually got more than twice as many shares and faves and retweets as the president's message.
That's really telling, Brian. I'm glad that you point that out, because so many people, obviously, around the world do rely on CNN. And I'm sure that you've had the same experience that I've begun having over the past year of people coming up and thanking us for still, bringing facts, for still being the press, for still being there. And so it's nice to know that people are spreading that word.
And that's not a partisan position.
So first of all, Brian Stelter, a CNN journalist, is actually bragging on live television about how many retweets and faves they got in their response to the president. I mean, congratulations, you won social media or something. And then you have Allison Camerota.
Take a look at the ratings.
Take a look at the ratings. And then you have Allison Camerota giving herself a pat on the back, claiming that there are randos on the street coming up to her all the time and thanking her for her excellent news coverage.
I'm sure that Manhattan elites will thank CNN for its news coverage because it's perfectly tailored to them. But next we'll go to an MSNBC guest that had a very interesting thing to say about the GOP.
I think if you take a step back, one has to ask themselves, and I think the American people should ask themselves the broader question: what has the Republican Party in the last 10 years done to help the American people? What have they done? The This is not a political party. This is a domestic terror group. And what I think the American people should consider when they ask themselves that question with a party that has done nothing to help the American people is to vote them out and consider possibly afterwards locking them up, Joy.
Wow, a domestic terrorist organization. Now that is some very interesting language there.
I would like to know what exactly this guy was on before he did this appearance on MSNBC. A little something, something.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that he's a Democrat, a Democratic pollster.
This just shows like the prevalent. This shows how they think about anybody who is a Republican or who votes Republican. Charles Blow, a New York Times writer, had a very similar tweet today. He said, "If you support Trump, I don't care what your reasons are. This is about right and wrong. We can't speak and we can't be friends." They think of you, of anybody who voted for the president, of anybody who identifies as a Republican, as a major threat to them, as a terrorist, literally a terrorist. And yet these people are the same ones who will apologize for Islamic State terrorists.
Yeah, and not to mention that Republicans don't do the same thing to Democrats. They don't say, well, you're a Democrat, that means you're a member of Antifa, which is a violent organization that attacks people in the streets. Republicans don't do that in return.
Yeah, I mean, there's no outcry about this, except obviously from those of us here, because we think it's absolutely ridiculous. But finally, my favorite, absolute favorite of anything that happened over this weekend, which is Piegate. Now, Piegate consumed us here at the Daily Caller and the Daily Caller News Foundation, because this is one of the most absurd things I think I've ever seen. Give us the definitive rundown of Piegate.
All right, so April Ryan was the first person to start Piegate. She's a CNN contributor. She claimed that White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders might have been faking a pie that she made for her family on Thanksgiving. No proof whatsoever, just a blanket assertion. A lot of other media people picked this up and ran with it. I ended up being blocked by some random guy on Twitter because I said that the two pies he was comparing weren't the same. It's a whole thing.
So everyone became obsessed with reverse image searching Sarah Sanders. Can she just bake a pie for her kids? Can we all just relax? It's Thanksgiving. April Ryan, I don't really know what you're doing out there, but you should probably be focusing your attention elsewhere.
This is the same woman, though, who felt the need to ask Sarah Sanders if the White House supported slavery because she's just full of so many lucid questions.
So, thank you, April, for your hard-hitting journalism. We admire you here every day at the Daily Caller News Foundation, a foundation dedicated to the news. Thank you guys so much for joining us. That's Today in Media. I'm here with my co-host, Amber, and I'm Sagar Ajay.